Bloody murder, murder, bloody murder, 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 murder. Bloody murder, murder, murder.
Okay, what's up, world? So today I want to try something different again. Try a different kind of a blog post. I want to try to do these videos every once in a while, but something just caught my attention here. I'm trying to bring up this piece from the Griot, and everyone's been talking about Jackie Kennedy and MLK and what's going on with that. A lot of people are acting really booty hurt over the situation because Jackie Kennedy said that MLK was a fraud, he was a trickster, whatever. I mean, really, I think some of that's coming from what a lot of the FBI, Hoover, and we all know that JFK wiretapped MLK, but really, if you really look into it, what's really behind it is was the FBI director Hoover, because he was pushing for that. The FBI was just getting going. There was a lot of issues with communism. This was a black guy who didn't stand for the status quo. Black guy, obviously being MLK, who didn't stand for the status quo. He was drastically changing this country. So, of course, they're gonna find issues with that. CIA, FBI, all do similar stuff. So. There's a lot of misinformation going around, and I'm sure that some of that misinformation even got to Jackie Kennedy, and maybe some of the misinformation has gotten to me. Maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about. But this is what I'm writing based on some of the research. This is what I'm talking about based on some of the research that I saw, and that I've looked up. Can't even talk. So yeah, some of the stuff that they say is MLK had sex parties. He was a sex addict, and because of that, he was a bad man. Do I think that he did have sex parties? Probably. I've heard that he was a sex addict, but I mean, Bill Clinton got his business handled in the White House. So does that mean he was a horrible president? No, it just means we're human. All right. So I'm not mad at Jackie or MLK. They're humans. Not everyone's gonna like each other, especially in the bitter world of politics. So let's be real, okay? So I'll give them a pass. Everybody gets a pass on that. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think looking back at Kennedy's his presidency, which is really kind of interesting, because the dude really was only president for a little under 3 years. 2 years and some change, and he got a lot of stuff done, whether you agree with it or not. That's pretty ridiculous. Especially he got a lot of stuff done in the first non-military recession. So a lot of people are talking about this. Of course, everyone's talking about the recession that's going on now. And we can't get anything done now, but how did they get stuff done back then, I really don't think that the country is interesting because back then the country was really divided. You had the civil rights movement going on. You had communism, the Red Scare, Cuban Missile Crisis, all that stuff going on. And now we have this going on. What do we have going on right now? We have a recession. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst that we've seen in a long time, but does that mean we can't get anything done? Like, we don't have a lot of other stuff going on. And a lot of the other stuff going on, in my opinion, we have a hand in doing that. So, we've got ourselves in this situation. We've gotten ourselves in this situation. But I think it's interesting. I don't think that we'll ever see another president do all the stuff that he did. Fight against the Federal Reserve, say that they can't print money, or loan the money to the government at high interest rates. I mean, because the Federal Reserve, we all know, is a privately owned bank. There's nothing federal about it. Federal people aren't even allowed in it. So, why should we as a country be beholden to these people who we don't even know who really runs it? We see the faces, but we see the faces in Tim Geithner, Ben Bernanke, and Alan Greenspan, but we can never really see behind that. So, come on. And this is one of the first, not the first president, but this is a president who really pushed against that, and the rest is history. We know what happened to Kennedy after he did that. So that's interesting. I wonder what the connection is between that. I think that's really interesting. But yeah, Kennedy pushed for a little bit more against Wall Street, which, you can love it or hate it. He was obviously on the side of unions, pushed for a 2.5 from some of the research that I got, 2.5% wage increase for workers in the steel industry. So even though the country turned around, which is really interesting, the country turned around a little bit, not all due to Kennedy, of course, but it turned around a little bit after Eisenhower was dealing with all that, so a pretty messy economy. But it turned around, but it didn't just turn around like right now, like it's turning around for Wall Street and Main Street is really having nothing going for them. Back then it was the opposite. It was Main Street started getting stuff turned around for them, but Wall Street was struggling. And it's just really interesting that, a little bit after 2 years, we don't even have a president any longer to keep pushing for what he pushed for. So that's a really interesting history lesson I think that people should look into. I'm going to look more into that. I could have misspoke if I did and I attributed something incorrectly. Please let me know. But yeah. And really to get back on the topic though, it's just really interesting, man, like what's going on in this economy. It's almost like, especially, black people, we're struggling right now. I mean, that's for sure. But everybody's struggling. People, it's really interesting that people get mad, now that they're on the levels where black and Hispanic people have been ever since they've probably been in this country. And now other people are, other ethnicities, other people in power are now, people who have been usually at the top of the totem pole and who have gotten, first response, kind of emergency response from the government. Now that the government's kind of throwing them to the side, now they're angry. Now they know how we feel, So that's really interesting. But it's interesting. What's even more interesting is the fact that these people are getting so angry, and they're not really having much taken away from them as the black community. We have black males who are 50% unemployed. We have our youth who are at 50% unemployed. We have blacks are moving backwards. Backward. How does that work? Aren't we supposed to be progressing? But yet we're not mad. And then when somebody like Tavis Smiley and somebody like Cornel West speak out against the government, they're being seen as haters. And I agree with Tavis on that. And I agree with a lot. There's a lot of people who have my sentiment. It's like, how can you get mad at Tavis for not calling the president out, but keeping the president honest? It's not Tavis that's got you in this certain situation. It's the president, it's the politics, it's the system. So work to try to fix that, And like Tavis said, if blacks would spend half of the energy that they have ridiculing him, and if they use half that energy into the president, and keeping him honest and getting, to their town halls, getting mad like the Tea Party, things might change for their situation, for our situation. But until we do something, nothing's going to change, and we're going to keep being at the bottom of the totem pole every year, So, I mean, we just have to do what we can to become more politically savvy, more politically active, and we got to become aware, man. We might not think that something's going on out there, but people are plotting against us, The system has always been against us, so we got to be aware. And last note, stop with this hater talk. Stop with the talking about, if you talk about Obama, you're a hater. Get out of here, man. Like, do your research. See what the man's doing. Stop being this bandwagoner and just be real, That's all I have to say, though. Thanks for listening. If you got anything to say, please respond. Bye.